Mr. Speaker, as I rise to make my contribution to this debate, I beg your permission to first quote a line from a play riddle by William Shakespeare. It's from a play called As You Like It, Act 2, Scene 7. And it goes, "This world is a stage and all the men and women merely players." And Mr. Speaker, what transpired in this House today reminded me so much of these lines. Mr. Speaker, this motion that has been laid in the House today is riddled with subjectivity, personal feelings, untruths. Mr. Speaker, have you ever heard of the saying, "Na bouile en kai pour tuer en fourmi"? Mr. Speaker, I'll interpret. The opposition, for the sake of the self-inflicted hate on the Prime Minister Alan Chastanet, is ready to burn St. Lucia.
That's right, that's right.
I say self-inflicted hate, Mr. Speaker, because this thing has gone on for long before the Prime Minister came into office. We heard it in the election campaign, that this election is not about UWP versus the SLP. It's about Chastanet versus the SLP.
That's right.
We heard the saying from so many that Chastanet will not be Prime Minister over my dead body. Mr. Speaker, the attacks have been endless, non-ending. Mr. Speaker, I actually recall seeing a video being circulated by an association of the opposition where the Prime Minister apparently had a hiccup, and to the point where they requested that the Prime Minister produce a medical certificate to say if he was all right to run the country. Non-ending, Mr. Speaker. The question I need to ask, Mr. Speaker, is who did the Prime Minister upset? The opposition has gone about criticizing the Prime Minister and by extension St. Lucia to the point where the Prime Minister had to do significant traveling to try to save the face of our beloved island, St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, there is a saying that lies can become truths if we allow it to. And therefore, we need to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that today we put an end to these lies. Because the motion, Mr. Speaker, is all about subjective, no facts. And I will bring the facts. I will bring the facts. Mr. Speaker, you know, I hear members opposite speak about a non-caring Prime Minister. One of the first things that touched me about this Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, was when he recognized a significant need for an increase in social workers in the country. Mr. Speaker, in my community, we have heard cases of children being abused, of children being taken advantage in all forms and fashions, and the schools only having one counselor, 11 schools in Choiseul, one counselor. A government that was in power for so many years never recognized the need to increase the people who can take care of our children, the vulnerable. This Prime Minister is taking care of that, and we will see that coming out later this year. They've spoken significantly of the Prime Minister saying one thing before elections, and when in office, saying another thing. Mr. Speaker, do you remember the words, "VAT is an oppressive tax"? You remember that?
Yeah, doesn't remember.
Who introduced it? Going back on your words. Let us look at some of the things that has been raised. Let us look at some of the things that has been raised, Mr. Speaker. They've spoken about schools. Almost all of the members across have spoken about schools. The conditions of schools, Mr. Speaker. Conditions of schools. It is the worst it has ever been. You know why? You know why? What was in the budget, previous government of the SLP? What has been in the government to rehabilitate and renovate schools? Tell us the figure. I can tell you. $1 million. You know what we have pumped into rehabilitation of schools last year? $10 million. $10 million. I speak for Choiseul, and I will tell you, Choiseul has never seen such an extensive amount of rehabilitation done at schools in any period in time. And last year we saw it. And it will continue this year, Mr. Speaker. It will continue. And it will continue until we get our schools to a point where our teachers and students feel comfortable enough. All of our public buildings infested with molds, all kinds of things. No maintenance in any of our buildings. You know, and our Prime Minister is spending money that has never been spent before on maintaining these buildings. And we want to say that our Prime Minister is an uncaring Prime Minister. We speak about roads, maintenance on roads. We speak about roads being done under the previous government. What roads have been done under the previous government? Tell us. What roads have been done under the previous governments? Huh? Tell us the roads. You know? We have an extensive road rehabilitation program that has started and is continuing. And, Mr. Speaker, the people are no longer blind. The people can see what is being done on the ground. And as I speak, I'll confirm with you. I'm still not speaking as a politician, but as a parliamentary representative. Right. Mr. Speaker, the previous government responsible for unprecedented concessions to a hotel. Unprecedented. Where our farmers have been affected, fishermen can be affected. It's unprecedented, Mr. Speaker. Talk about a caring government. We speak about, Mr. Speaker, what has been done to curb crime. Mr. Speaker, under this government, there has never been more vehicles purchased for the government, not coming from the Consolidated Fund. We have heard time and time again of a forensic lab that was closed, Mr. Speaker. Which government paid attention to putting this forensic lab back in order? We have heard of an absence of a DPP. We have heard of the Marine unit being unoperable. We have seen new equipment being purchased for the police officers. And this year we're going to see significant equipment being brought to assist the police in battling crime. So, Mr. Speaker, when we hear, we hear about things that are trying to confuse people, but we know that our government is working under the leadership of the Prime Minister to take care of the deficiencies in the system. You know, Mr. Speaker, what upsets me and irks me is when the opposition continually speaks on matters that create chaos and confusion among our people, talking about we will not be able to bathe on our beaches. Ludicrous! Who will prevent any solution from bathing on our beaches? You know, this is the kind of things that, they want to spread to the people who are ill-informed, so that the people can get riled up. We know that cannot happen. Lucians are waking up to a new kind of society. I heard the member from Beaufort North. Lucians are waking up to a new kind of society where people, and he's right, because you know what's happening now, Mr. Speaker? Our people are beginning to believe that I don't have to depend on a politician. That is the new reality. I don't have to depend on a handout from a government. Okay? From the time I've been a little boy, I've always been hearing, they playing the card of the Malawi. Always playing a Malawi card, As if, they're trying to entitle you, that you are entitled to be a Malawi. What are we doing to try to take our people out from the Malawi syndrome to elevate them? What are we doing? We need to make our people believe and know that their life can change. And I know all what the Prime Minister is doing, in particular for the south of the island, where there is significant unemployment and significant poverty, is to elevate the life and the standard of our people. Mr. Speaker, we have to start thinking differently. We cannot play the same old politics. We have to elevate the debate in this House. We have to start having our representatives speaking on a different level. There are now opportunities for St. Lucians to become their own bosses. There are now opportunities for us to become entrepreneurs, to be masters of our own fates, Mr. Speaker. And that is the destiny that St. Lucians are waking up to, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I won't take much time because we've heard a lot, and I know my colleagues have a lot to say. But I will end by saying I have every confidence in the Honorable Alan Chastanet as Prime Minister, and that this vote of no confidence is a sham. Thank you.
That's right.